Hi, my name's Nina. I'm with The Writer's Head, and today I'm joined by the lovely Anna Lee. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Anna Lee. I'm the author of Red Summer.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Yeah. How are you doing?
That's good. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. What time is it for you? It's just gone 3 p.m. for me. I'm in the UK.
Yeah, it's 10 a.m. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've actually moved around quite a bit.
Oh,
Originally,
okay.
I am from Florida. So started off in Florida. I lived there probably for like 20-ish years of my life. And then after I graduated college, moved to Alaska for 8 years and then was there for 8 years and then left and actually moved to North Carolina. So I've traveled a lot all across the US. And I think that just kind of like, open my mind to how big the world is. Like, obviously, it's only been in the US, and like,
But the US is massive.
It's huge. So yeah, I think just moving around a lot is just kind of like the world is a really big place, and I love writing about it.
Do you have a favorite place that you've lived?
In a lot of ways, it was Alaska. It's really just like a wild place and just so gorgeous. Just with the mountains and the forest, really
stunning.
It really is just like wilderness out there. So I would say Alaska is probably the favorite place that I've lived.
And congratulations on the release of Red Summer. So am I correct in saying that it's out on Kindle and paperback now?
Yeah, so it is available both, well, on Amazon, also in Barnes & Noble, also I think possibly at Walmart.
And Red Summer, what kind of book is that? Are we talking fantasy? Is it a little bit urban?
This book is, I think, a bit more urban fantasy. It does take place in New Orleans. However, I think it does kind of like fall slightly more into epic fantasy as we move along. Urban fantasy, but slightly into epic fantasy.
So with New Orleans as the backdrop for Red Summer, I mean, I love that. I've always wanted to go to New Orleans. Have you ever been, or is it somewhere that you've always wanted to go?
I've been to New Orleans. When my husband and I were actually moving out of Alaska, we took I think it was like maybe 3 or 4 months, but like a pretty long road trip across the US. Spent a few days in New Orleans. And I was just like, stunned. Most of our stops along the way had been like national parks and stuff. So New Orleans is probably one of the only like cities that we visited. But it was just so unique. The magical backdrop of everything and like the culture there and
so vibrant. Yeah,
it's very vibrant. Yeah. And like it isn't to say that New Orleans doesn't have its issues, it does, but like it was really just a very unique experience. It was actually while I was in New Orleans, that the story actually came to me. And I was just like,
love that.
This is cool. And I was actually like, while we were on a road trip, I started writing the story and plotting and planning it out. So, yeah.
So it wasn't just that you came away from New Orleans going, "Oh, I'm full of inspiration." It was you were still there and thought, I can't not put this down.
Yes.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely comes through in the writing. It's one of my favorite parts of your writing style is how well you describe kind of the natural world and also the man-made aspects of the city and architecture. I thought that was really strong.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So what made you want to write fantasy?
I grew up reading fantasy. Like there were probably some books I read as a kid that weren't fantasy, but by far, for the most part, like I grew up on Harry Potter, Aragon, even Hunger Games, which is less fantasy, more dystopian. But like when I was in college, I actually read Cassandra Clare's The Mortal Instruments series and then her Infernal Devices series. And I was just blown away. So I think just like overall fantasy has always been my go-to and it shows in my writing. That's what inspired me and that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah, the passion for the fantasy genre definitely comes through, especially with the complexity. I mean, we'll talk about that in a minute. But would you say your biggest kind of author inspirations are like the books you've mentioned, like Cassandra Clare?
Just in the world building, I think Cassandra Clare and Sarah J. Maas are probably like my two big inspirations with how complex their world building is. And I think just the idea of like multiple series that are in the same universe that play off each other, like that was a huge inspiration for me. It's probably going to end up being something, or definitely is something I'm going to be doing with my own writing. It's like there's this series, there'll be another series, they're connected, and I'm already setting the scene for that. So yeah, I would definitely say that those two are probably my two biggest inspirations. And then J.K. Rowling, for sure. I think the way that she, even in book 1, starts to set up for things that are going to happen in book 7. Like you get to see these like breadcrumbs that get tossed throughout. I just love that. That's one of my favorite things about writing is like getting to see those little like breadcrumbs.
As a writer, you get to feel a bit smug when you lay them. You think, oh, people might not notice this the first time around, but by book 3, they'll think, oh, that's familiar.
Yeah. Before publishing this book, I had some beta readers reading it, and they're like, I don't see why this is necessary. And I'm like, it will be.
It will be. Mark my words.
Yeah.
So with publishing, what's your publishing journey been like?
It's been a bit wild. I think like even when I was starting to write Red Summer, I was thinking like, do I want to go the traditional route? Do I want to do self-publishing? And I think there's a lot that plays into that, and a lot that like maybe a lot of people don't really think about.
A lot of invisible labor with it.
Yeah. For me, I think my choice to do self-publishing was a lot about wanting to kind of be in charge of everything from start to finish. I wanted to be in charge of my own timelines. I wanted to not feel pressure from anyone to like do things a certain way. I go into that with the knowledge that like I 100% benefit from the insights and advice from other people. And that's why I kind of like ask for beta reads or talk to editors, or I truly do believe in growing and learning from other people. And I think for this, it was more not wanting to kind of fit someone else's perspective about what this book is supposed to be and really be able to be true to the story that I've made. So yeah, I did decide to go the self-publishing route. And it's been really, really cool because I've actually really enjoyed just like, I love like editing my own stuff. I love formatting it. I love like, I get to make everything like perfect. I'm a perfectionist. It's kind of an issue.
Yeah. The best people are.
Yeah. I think also it's just been really cool to have just like a team of people that I get to work with. Like I have like the cover designer that like made this, and I loved having that back and forth of like what my vision was and then being able to like help bring it to life. And then just like with beta readers, like getting to just give it to them and living vicariously through them as they experience the story for the first time. And like, it's just been a really fun experience.
I know it sounds it, and keeping the core and the heart of the story like so close to you, and being able to, like you said, take on like constructive criticism from editors or beta readers, but knowing that ultimately you're still in charge of how your book is going to be portrayed and how it's going to be shown to people. I think that's a really big plus of self-publishing, because you get so much kind of agency with what you're doing.
I will say there are challenges to that. Like, it doesn't get as much marketing, or like people don't see it as much. So I have like had to research all the ways to get my book out there and like create my own marketing plan. And marketing really is this like other half of publishing and writing that takes a lot more time than I think a lot of people realize, and like how to do that well and how to time things well. And like, I'm still learning. I'm not like
we'll have it by book 2. Book 3 maybe.
By book 5. Yeah, we'll see.
Within the kind of, I guess, era of like book talk and bookstagram, have you found that that's been harder with promoting your book than you kind of anticipated? Because obviously you grow up seeing how books are like published and promoted in the traditional kind of sense, like going to bookshops, seeing posters, but because these days, even in the last like 3 years, the online presence for promotion of books has just gone off the charts. It's so popular. Has that been like a new challenge?
Resounding yes. I think especially with social media in general, like you go onto Instagram and you see like it's the same 7 books getting promoted from everywhere, and most of them really are like traditionally published books, which can be kind of confusing because you're like, well, you guys have your traditional avenues, let the indie authors have talk, but it's fine. It's been a growing experience because I think for me, when I first started promoting on Instagram, I kind of felt like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to be on here like every single day of my life. And
like another full-time job.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also the mental piece of like being on social media so frequently can really like take a toll on your mental, just like mental wellness. And so I think for me, I've kind of learned like there's got to be balance to that. So like right now, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world and I'm kind of off social media right now because it's, for me, I feel like I don't really want to be on it. The month of September, I'm just taking a break from all things book. And I think, well, besides this interview.
Well, thank you. I'm very honored.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is something to just learning how to balance and balance well. And I think especially like this is book 1 of a series. Book 2 plus has not even been like published yet. So while part of me really wants to like move forward and do all this promotion, I also recognize like a lot of people actually don't read a series until it's complete. So I'm also learning like I can promote a little bit, but I'm not going to go like all out for this book when I could be writing and finishing the series. So I think, yeah, it's just been a lot of balancing. And with book talk, it's like I put myself out there and I run ads when I can and just kind of have to hope for the best.
I've always found it very weird when people say, oh, I don't read until the entire series is published. But I wonder if I'm coming from a writer's perspective, thinking the momentum is what keeps writers motivated. Mm-hmm. It's what makes us think, oh, people actually want to be reading this. Because if you start with the first book and it doesn't get much traction, you think, oh, am I doing something wrong? Should I be kind of looking at my other avenues and my other kind of ideas for manuscripts and things? So I think it's definitely a balance. Like you said, once you've got the second book written, well, I mean, once you've got the second book out, that might have like the promise that the series will be completed, because then it's not just like, oh, what if they leave it as a standalone?
Yeah, for sure. I do definitely think that's the case. And I think like as more books come out, people will see like, oh, she did publish book 2. Oh, she did publish book 3.
Yeah.
For my readers, I would love for them to like experience that, like the tension of waiting for the next book, because like I think all of us experience it. Like I'm experiencing it with like Sarah J. Maas right now. And like I remember waiting in line for the Harry Potter books and just getting so excited when like the announcement for our next book came out. And I think there is something to that I think like as a social media society, we've kind of moved away from like getting that like anticipation to like instant gratification. I do think that there's something to being able to like wait expectantly and hopefully for something. So all that to say, like, I'm not going to rush my books, because like I do truly believe there will be people who read this book and won't like it, and there will be people that read this book and love it, and I'm writing for them. I have experienced quite a lot of people who have read my book and have been like, I love this. It is so good. And I'm like, great. You are the person that I am writing for. And like, I want to live vicariously through you. And like, tell me who your favorite character is. And like, what are your theories? And I think it is really just focusing on those people that are your people and that like have read it and do love it and are like your cheerleaders, and writing for them and not writing for just like the hope of millions of readers. Because I mean, if it gets there, that's great, that's wonderful, but it's got to start somewhere. It's got to start with, you know, a small few, and I love that.
I completely agree. If you're, like you said, doing it for the people that will love it, the people that will lap it all up, then that will come through in the writing, because your excitement will come through. Whereas if you're writing thinking, oh, this will sell quickly, this will go viral, it seems like it doesn't have that passion behind it. We've talked a lot. Tell me more about Red Summer, because that's why we're here today. Yeah. So those that aren't lucky enough to be familiar with it yet, pitch it.
So Red Summer is a young adult urban fantasy. Does kind of go into the epic fantasy world, and I will say future books probably lean a little further into new adult, so that's just something for people to be aware of. But it truly is like a coming of age story about a foster boy named Wilder, who grew up in the human world, discovers that he is not actually human through a series of chaotic events. He handles it as well as he can, but comes to find out that like there's a whole world hidden behind a shroud, and there's a mounting war that has been going on beyond the shroud that's actually starting to affect the human world. And you do kind of see like how it is beginning to affect the human world in this book. The whole story is just about him discovering who he is, finding a family that he never had, and trying to figure out where he came from, all while trying to also understand the powers that he has that he's kind of hidden and pushed down for most of his life. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's basically the story.
That sums it up well, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously Wilder is it's his coming of age story. So as he's kind of like maturing, do you think you're going to be exploring darker themes, or is it kind of to do with the politics of the world?
Maybe not necessarily darker, but more mature themes. He is 17 in Red Summer. The other characters, I think, are slightly older. We've got 18, 19. So they are kind of like moving into adulthood. And I think for me, just as a writer, obviously they're moving into adulthood. The book should also move into adulthood too. I just wanted people to be able to see their whole story and not feel like it was watered down. However, like, it isn't to say that older young adults can't read it. It's just to say the characters are growing up. So that's why. Yeah.
So the world building in Red Summer, it's very complex. Was it always that way, or did it kind of gradually increase in terms of we've got a lot of different species, a lot of different kind of magical elements? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that it is a complicated question. So, and it's a complicated world. From a writer's standpoint, it's like, this is my first book that I've ever written, and I think I just got so excited about like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, it's gonna be great. But I've realized that there were things I wrote in the first book that truly, like, there were plot lines that I didn't know were going to be plot lines until I wrote them in the first book and was like, oh, this will actually fit in beautifully. So I do think like it is very complex at the beginning, but it ends up being with purpose throughout the rest of the series. All the dynamics that play out with these different just types of seed being people that are not human, basically. Yeah. As a first-time writer, did not realize how complex this truly was until I was writing it and was like, oh man, I think I made this very complex. But also, like, I love it. Like, I love the way that it all plays out. So yeah, it did start that way, and I'm gonna keep going till the end with it.
I love that, and I think a lot of fantasy kind of diehard fans will also love that, because so much of the like appeal for fantasy is how in depth these worlds can be, and you really feel like you escape by going to something that's so chaotically complicated, but in the most appealing way. And I think that that's really strong. When the ideas kind of first came to you, did you know it was going to be a series rather than a standalone? Or
I did know it was going to be a series, mostly because I grew up reading series. And I think for me, like, I know standalones, I think, are kind of having like their heyday right now. Like, people really love standalones. But I just know, like, every time I've ever read a standalone, at the end of the book, I was always like, I want more. Like, I'm not done with this story. So I think for me, it just like all my inspirations have been series writers. So it was just a natural progression that I would end up writing a series. What I didn't know was when I first started writing this series with Wilder, I actually didn't know that there would be a completely second series that is separate from him.
okay.
I only had in mind, I think like it was going to be a trilogy. Then realized I had way too much plot for a trilogy. So it may actually end up being 4 books. Actually, it'll likely be 4 books for this half of a larger overarching series. So 4 books for here, and then there will be another series, I think probably called The Wings of Winter, that are
reveal.
It'd be like a 3-book trilogy, and then there'll actually be a book written kind of in the middle as a bridge between the two to kind of explain the connections. I actually didn't know about the whole other half until I was writing book 2, and then it just kind of like dropped in my head, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be
It
great.
built itself for you, yeah.
Yeah.
I have to ask, it's got winter in the title. Does that have anything to do with a certain character? Am I allowed to ask that at this
Yeah, you
stage?
are allowed to ask that. You are. It does not actually. And I will say the second series does not have the same types of characters,
Okay.
like species. Like in this series, there's fae, there's werewolves. This is actually going to be very different in terms of,
Okay.
I won't say world building because it's the same world,
Yeah.
kind of.
A different pocket of the world.
A different pocket of the world where there are different types of I guess characters that exist or species that exist. So very different in that way. But I will say, like, every single book of this series does have the word summer in it.
Oh, I like that.
I'm not sure that every single book of that one will have the word winter in it, but we'll see. We'll see. That's like 4 books away.
Yeah, so all future Anna's problem. Were there any moments writing Red Summer that you really struggled with writer's block? And if so, what would be your, I guess, top tip for overcoming that?
I think this goes kind of a lot of different ways. Writer's block, for real, a thing. And I think a lot of it has just been learning to discern, like, where's the writer's block coming from. I am a perfectionist, so I am probably my biggest critic. And a lot of the time, my writer's block might be coming from feeling like something needs to look like a certain way before I can move on. So I think, like, just recognizing that and recognizing, like, how can I give myself grace in this moment? And I think in those moments, it's reminding myself, like, I'll go back and read a previous chapter that I think was, like, particularly good. And I'm like, okay, I can write. Like,
Yeah.
I can do this, even though it looks terrible right now. And just reminding myself, like, it doesn't have to look good right off the bat. Like, that's what editing is for. And I love editing. So, like, I think the hardest part for me is drafting, like, getting the words out. So going back and editing, I think, can sometimes be very helpful. But there's also been times where I'm just like, I can't write, edit, touch this book at all. There are times I legitimately looked at this book and was like, I hate this book. Like, I hate this story.
And you don't know where that voice is coming from, and you think, oh, and the next day you're completely fine.
Oh yeah. And then you're like, actually, this is a really good book and I love it. And
Glad I didn't burn it.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't burn it. Yeah, like, I love it enough that, like, I have it saved in multiple places. So, like, if something happens to one, I have a copy. Like,
Yeah.
So, like, the scene from Little Women,
I was thinking of that.
that is every writer's horror movie. Like,
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Unforgivable.
Unforgivable, terrible. So no, I love this. I am never ever going to be like a chaotic burn the manuscript kind of person, but I just want to bring to attention, like, there are points in the writer's journey where you hate your writing, where you think it's terrible. Like, and there's so much grace for that, and it's just like, not today. Like, I won't write today, and that's okay. And then reminding yourself what you do love about the story, and, like, coming back to that. Other things that I'll do, like, if I really just can't push myself through it, like, reading other authors' writing, particularly the ones that inspired me to start with, that is huge. Like, I think just, like, being able to take yourself out of being the writer, being the perfectionist, being the critic, and just reading a story that you're in love with without having to feel like, oh, I have to edit this later. Like, it's already been done for you. You can just fall into the story and enjoy it. I think that, like, that reignites inspiration. And then there's also just the idea of, like, sometimes I've been so, like, into fantasy for so long that I need a break from that world, and I just need to be regrounded in reality for a little bit. So I think there's a few different things, and really it's all just discerning, like, where am I at emotionally, spiritually, etc., and reground myself before returning to the work. So yeah, it's all about balance, I think. But that isn't to say, like, those moments can be tough. You got to do something to get over it.
I completely agree. It's all about kind of knowing that those feelings of kind of self-doubt are just completely natural. But yeah, so thank you. That's a really good advice. On a more positive note, what scene did you enjoy writing the most in Red Summer?
When you sent me this question, I was like, I love this question. I think the scenes that I enjoyed writing the most are the ones that were like really high raw emotion. So for me, it was probably the scene with Wilder shifting for the first time. I was actually personally in tears, like writing this scene. And then the other one was probably Olivia's childhood flashback. Both of those, I was just like, this is so hard, and like these are my characters, and I love them, and like I'm literally making them go through some really tough things right now.
Yeah. Oh, the worst part of being a writer is knowing it's so necessary, but you feel evil at the time.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, both of those scenes, I can 100% understand why, because it just really come through. Like I remember reading them, and they were so emotive, especially the flashback for Olivia. I love a flashback. I love writing them. I love reading them. I think that they're so good for dealing with like trauma or kind of coming to terms with different emotions, and I think that's such a good tool. So yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed writing these, because I love reading them.
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
So have any characters kind of changed drastically from your first kind of iterations of them?
I was really thinking about this, and I don't think that they have.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was really like considering it, and I think like it was more like meeting them than creating them. Like they kind of all just came to me as people, and I'm just like, okay, it's just like my job to write you out and like I guess like be true to who your character is, rather than trying to like, oh, wouldn't this be like, I wonder if this character will like be this way. It's like, no, they just kind of show up, and I have to write out like how they are, which I've heard from like quite a few authors is like a thing where you just like someone just randomly shows up. Actually, I did have in the second book, I do have a character that randomly just shows up that I was not expecting, and I was like, okay, this is a person now.
You're like, oh, you're here. Okay, go on.
Go on. Okay. Welcome to the party.
I love that idea of them just appearing before you. You kind of feel like you have a sense of duty to tell their story for them. You're like the messenger. You're not the creator. You're just the messenger. I love that.
Yes, exactly. That's literally how I feel about this book. A lot of times I just feel like the plot lines are just kind of like dropped in my head, and I'm like, all right, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have a favorite character as a writer? It's a bit like being a parent and being like, do you have a favorite child? And you're like, oh, I shouldn't answer this question, but
I do. I would honestly say my favorite character is Tristan, which I think a lot of people have read this book and have said the same. He is just such a complex character. And I think for him, it was less that he didn't change, just more of his story became apparent to me as I was writing him. And you kind of see touches or like subtle nods to like stuff that happened in his past that doesn't really get touched on in book 1, but will end up getting touched on in book 2. I'm really excited for him as a character and just like the growth that he's going to end up going through. He's the one that like people will read what he's doing in book 1 and you're like, dude, why?
I really liked him as a character because my opinion on him kept changing, and I loved that he could do that for me, that I could think, oh, I hate you so much, and then like the next chapter I'm like, oh, poor Tristan. I like a character that keeps me on my toes, so that was really enjoyable to read. So which Red Summer character do you think you're most similar to as a person, and why?
Oh gosh, this is hard. I would honestly say it's somewhere between Wilder and Tara. Wilder has this like heart for people that like he just wants to fight for people and self-sacrifice for people, and like that's just who he is. And I think I have a tendency to be that way to a fault sometimes, which to a fault Wilder will do it. So yeah. I think Tara in some ways is also that way as well. So I think both of them kind of have that tendency that I feel like is part of me as well. I think with Tara also, like, Tara channels Hermione. It's kind of who she is. She loves to read and she loves to learn and she loves to like understand the world. I think in a lot of ways I'm also like Tara in that way. Like I geek out on learning.
I think that makes sense. In my opinion, if any of the Red Summer kind of cast were gonna write a book, it would be Tara. She'd do all the research for it. She'd be great at the world building. And you know she'd come out with a banging book. It would be great.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Who do you think you get on the best with? And that doesn't necessarily have to be the same character that you think you're kind of similar to.
Honestly, I would say I'd probably get along best with Tristan. I love his bluntness. I think like he is just willing to be 100% honest all of the time. And I appreciate that in somebody because you kind of always know where you stand with them. And there's no like guessing or wondering. So I think in that way, probably Tristan, because he just like through all his faults is actually like a really good friend.
Yeah, it's really important to have like someone like that in your circle because you know that you can go to them with a problem. They'll give it to you straight, maybe slightly harsh, but it'll be necessary and it'll be coming from the right place.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And which kind of magical kind of type do you think you'd be? Like, because obviously we've got fae, we've got vampires, kind of werewolves, we've got is it whites?
So with the Magum or the Magum are whites and mages. So whites are the females and mages are the males. But I would honestly say I'd probably be a Magum, a white. But what I will say is that, and something I'll give away for future books, is that humans do end up playing a major part in all of this. So I would actually opt to say human.
That's a very interesting answer.
Yeah. There will be quite a bit that happens with the humans. So I pick human.
I love that. I think you're probably one of the first fantasy writers to say that. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that epilogue. Just from our conversations like previously, I know a little secret about that epilogue. Do you want to share about that?
The epilogue was originally going to be the prologue, and the epilogue was actually the very first thing I wrote. And the very first part of the story that came to me was actually the epilogue. I think it was the part that I've probably spent the most time on in the entire first book. Not because it's the most important, but because it was the start of the book and I wanted it to be perfect. The decision to move it from prologue to epilogue, there were a lot of reasons behind that. I think like with this being the first book, I didn't necessarily want the first thing that the reader read to be something that didn't even come up in the rest of the book. I didn't want that, I guess, like vibe to be what set the foundation for the entire book, because the entire book is very different than the epilogue. But I do think the epilogue does play really well into kind of setting up for the future books. With that said, there was also this idea that I think the epilogue creates a lot of theories about the main character and how everything is incorporated in. And it wasn't a theory that I wanted readers to get to right off the bat. I wanted them to kind of like see something later before the second book. So I think it was all about like timing and the experience that I wanted the readers to have and kind of like not giving them everything right away.
I love how you kind of messed about with the chronology there, and it's just so much more effective having that as the epilogue, I think. And it also means we're diving straight in from the beginning with Wilder as our kind of lens to view everything through, and I just think that works really well. So you made the right decision. I love it.
Thank you so much.
Let's talk about that cover. I mean, I think it's gorgeous. I love that you've got the little chess pieces. You kind of like link and you think, how are these going to be relevant? Can we talk a little bit about how you got that done? Like, did you get it commissioned, or that kind of process of getting cover art as a self-published author?
So I will say that was a bit daunting. Like, the internet is so big and has all these options, and you
Yeah.
just like, you don't know where to go. And like, there's also this piece of like, there's AI now, and people don't necessarily like utilizing AI for their cover art, and definitely understand like the reasoning behind that. So it's like, all right, well, I don't want AI for my cover, but you know, I also don't want to spend $1,000 on my cover. So it's kind of like how to balance that well. I actually ended up finding a really great company called Mybel Art, and I checked with them. They don't use AI. I was like, great, let's go this route. They were wonderful to work with. So it was a company, not like a Fiverr design or like just one person. It was a whole company. The creator was just one person, and then I worked with, I guess, kind of like a customer service person that I like tossed ideas back and forth with. But what I really, really, really loved about them was there was like no limit to how many edits I could make. Like, I would give them a vision, they threw it together. I said, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. I think we went through probably like 6, 7, 8 different revisions before we got to this one. And every single time they were just like, absolutely, like whatever changes you want to make, let's make them. Like, I think there was like even subtle things like, hey, I think this like red color isn't quite the red color that I want. Like, can we go a bit darker? Like, until it was perfect. Like, I remember saying like, hey, the lightning isn't as bright as I'd like the lightning to be. Like, can you add some more lightning? So yeah, it was just really cool. I did kind of have a vision for what I wanted, and they were able to throw it together beautifully. And there's a lot of pieces with this cover. I think like you and I maybe like talked about it a little bit. Like, people have made comments about like, oh, like maybe the chess pieces shouldn't be there. And I'm like, I went back and forth about that. And I was like, yeah, but I like the chess pieces, so I think I'm going to keep them in there. So really, it was just kind of like all about my heart for the cover. And I think it came out exactly how I wanted it.
Definitely. And I so agree with the chess pieces. I think it makes it stand out, because there's a lot of books that have kind of like gothic-y covers. It pulls that more to the Red Summer story by having the chess pieces around it and the lightning. It's kind of like, yeah, we've got this kind of general setting, but here's how I've made it different in the story.
And I think the chess pieces in particular, they kind of represent like this overarching idea of like, there's a very intricate game at play with this entire story. And you only are just beginning to see the starts of it in this first book. So I am hoping that this like chess theme is something that I can kind of continue on with the covers throughout the rest of the series. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that yet, but yeah, I will say that like it's almost like this general, it's lightly touched on, but I wanted people to understand that like there is a greater story at play.
Talking about other books, can you give us any sneak peeks about book 2? Is that allowed?
Yes, it can. So if anyone does read Red Summer, you do get to see kind of a sneak peek of book 2. And you'll see that it's from a certain character's perspective that you don't get to see in book 1. But what I will say is that book 2, you leave New Orleans and you don't go back. It's, I know.
We go somewhere exciting.
We go somewhere exciting. We are in Tyr, which is the Seed homeland. 2/3 of the book will take place there. The last third of the book will take place somewhere else. I won't say where. The entire, or most of the book 1 is from Wilder's perspective. You see kind of like Tara's perspective a few times, and near the end you also see like a little drop from Harry and Olivia. Pretty much all of book 2 is actually primarily between 4 different characters. You see Wilder has a very large chunk of the book, but Tristan also has another really large chunk of the book. And a character that we only got to see a glimpse of in book 1, Giselle, also plays a major part in this book, and you get to see a lot of her perspective, Tara's perspective, I think a couple chapters from Harry, but nothing too big. And you get to see at the beginning of the book a perspective from a character we are just very, very briefly introduced to in book 1, and her name is Adria. So yeah, there's a lot of different point of views.
It's exciting, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's something that I tried to do well. I know that I've gotten some feedback that like, it's too complicated with all the point of views. And like, that's what this book is. I'm sorry, guys. That was something that I just could not get away from. I think like it's so important for people to truly see like the hearts of each of these characters and who they are as people. And I personally think the best way to do that is through alternate point of view. So yeah, that was the hope for it. Part of book 1 too was you're just starting to see the world, and I wanted people to just start seeing the world through the eyes of someone who also was just starting to see the world. But yeah, now we're moving on, and it's time to see the world from other people.
You've got to remember, you've already set the foundation for like majority of these characters in book 1, so it's not like the readers are coming to them fresh and getting confused.
Yeah,
I think it'll work, and I personally am a big fan of multiple perspectives. I love getting in everybody's head, so
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to it. Is there anything that you would like to discuss that I haven't asked you, or anything that you feel like you need to let people know about Red Summer?
Just that you should read it. It's a really fun story. And I think that if you can make it through the complex world building, you're actually really gonna enjoy the story. These characters, I've heard this from a few people, but I do think these characters truly do feel like people. Yeah, I'm really excited for people to read it, and I'm really excited to hear people's like take on like their favorite characters. That's like one of my favorite questions. Is just, I just want to know people's favorite characters, because like I've got people who like adore Olivia, and I'm like,
I'm very fond of Olivia. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm so glad you love Olivia.
I love her because she's bubbly, she's sunshiny, she's a little bit impulsive, but she's figuring things out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it truly is just like this coming of age story for all of them, and they're all like learning and growing up in this like war-torn world. I do think it's a really fun story and just a really fun start to the series. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Anna. It's been a pleasure to interview you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was so exciting.